Hello and welcome to the Hannon Clinic. I'm Dipna Hannon. I am the owner and the sole practitioner here at the clinic. Just wanted to introduce myself and give you a wee bit to my background as to why I do what I do here, okay? It's something I get asked quite often because when I'm working with people with stress and anxiety or depression or anything like that, I teach from my own experience and I teach from my own example. So people get to know my story, and from that then I can help them move on with their lives. So I thought it'd be just useful to share my story with you here. I have a background of, primarily I did a geology degree in Queen's, graduated in 94, had a baby straight away, so had to go straight into employment. Worked quite a lot in small and large organisations, all Northern Ireland based. Some private sector, some public sector, but in all those positions I was generally management or above. I was very lucky in my first position that I got taken in at a very high position and sort of maintained that. But in around 2001, I joined a new organisation, had a great job. On the face of it, everything was going great, had a great job, great home, everything, all the rest. But I outgrew that job, and when I went to leave and I spoke to the head of department about leaving, he asked me not to leave, and he asked me to consider maybe even moving somewhere else within the organisation, because it was quite a big organisation. So I did that. It took about 3 months out just to look around to see what there was. And because of previous experience I had, I decided I would go to this one particular department. Now, it took another year to move. It wasn't like this was like a rash decision. I just went. This was like a year and a half in the process of me moving. So when I finally moved, I was glad. I'd outgrown my job, or I was well outgrown it, and was ready for the move. And I only moved up 2 flights of stairs. But their work ethos in that department was so different to what I was used to in the previous department that when I moved up, I sort of stepped back a bit and I was waiting to find my place. Now, in that department, I was the only person who had first-hand experience from a previous position of actually delivering in the workplace, actually delivering that, what they were trying to help other people do in their workplaces. But I was given work that should have been closed in the mid-70s. I was given old work. I was left on my own. I was left out of things. I was told in performance reviews about what staff had said about me, and my manager really sort of started to communicate to me via messaging. No conversation, but I couldn't figure it out. And this is what the issue was. When I started in that job, I waited to find my place. 2 years in, I couldn't find my place. 2 years in, I was literally a complete basket case, but didn't know why. So went to the doctors, and he said he'd put me off on stress leave. And because I went off on stress leave, that organisation then sent me to one of their counsellors. And both my GP and their counsellor diagnosed me with stress because of bullying by exclusion. I had never heard tell of bullying by exclusion before. To me, bullying was always just a shouting and roaring and in your face sort of practice. So in one respect, it was a relief to know what it was that I was going through, what was wrong with me. But on the other hand, it kind of floored me, because I'm a very strong person, I'm a very independent person, and to know that I was bullied without even seeing it kind of floored me. All right. So went back into meet the head of department and HR, and explained this to them, that now I know what it is, so now we can sort it out, now I can get back to work. And the answer I got from the head of department was, well, are you going to take a claim? And that threw me a bit, because I thought actually it showed that he never actually took the time to get to know me, because if he did, he would know that wasn't in my nature. I just wanted to get back to work. I just wanted to be normal. That's what I kept saying to myself. I just want to be normal. So I did what I had to do through occupational health, and I got back into work. But within a very short space of time, I had two men coming over to me one day and literally shouting at me like this, two of them saying two different things, and I just went, "You're upsetting me now," and I walked out. And I rang one of the other the very senior management team, and I told him what had happened, and I said, "Look, what have I done wrong?" And he says to me, "You've done nothing wrong, but they're in serious breach for what they've just done to you." But by that stage I'd had enough. I literally went in over the weekend, packed my stuff, left my passes, and handed in my letter of resignation the next day to my original head of department. Didn't even go back to the ones that had been bullied. But what happened then was I left there, and I just threw myself into opening up a new business as a business consultant, because that's what my background was in. I was doing great, was going great guns at it until about a year later, and I completely hit the wall, and I just went into such a dark place. I wasn't at my lowest at that point, but I was just exhausted from trying to lift myself, constantly trying to work to lift myself. So I went to a counsellor, and she had actually said to me, you need to take time off. Which actually what she said to me was, "Do you never stop?" But I thought everybody worked the way I worked, long hours, studied, was constantly on the go. So I listened to her and I took that on board, and I did stop. I wound up my business. It took me about 3 months to wind it up. Wound up the business, and then started to work on myself. And because my head was constantly going round and round and round with the questions of what's wrong with me and why am I like this, and I shouldn't be like this because I have, I have a good job, I have a nice house, why am I like this? One day I was in the house and my head was completely gone, and I said, I need to get out to clear my head. But when you go for a walk, you take your head with you. But what actually happened to me that day changed my life. And this is the technique that I teach people, no matter whether it's for stress or anxiety, just low mood or anything. But when I was out walking, I'd been walking for about an hour at this stage, and this thing was going round and round and round in my head. And when I actually was about a quarter of a mile from home, something came over me and I went into a panic, and I actually stood looking at the hedge going, "Look at the hedge, look at the hedge, look at the hedge." And I made myself look at the hedge, and I forced myself to talk to the hedge about the hedge. All right, now this saved my life. This shows you how far gone I was when I'm standing on the side of the road talking to a hedge. But it literally saved my life. And what I did was I stopped that chatter in my head, and I forced myself to think from a different part of the brain by actually looking at the hedge and talking to the hedge. So from there I was able to lift my head and I started to look at the calves in the field, and then I could see the flowers in the garden. And as I walked on down the road and I got to the bottom of the hill, the thought that had been really dragging me down earlier on came back. But it was the first time ever that I actually stopped and went, I stopped that. I stopped my thoughts. So it took me another sort of 2 years to work out what exactly I had done, and to understand that I had moved my thought process from one part of the brain where it's just that subconscious loop that's going round and round and round to just keep running it over and over again. And I moved my thoughts to my frontal cortex by actually looking at the hedge. So when I sort of came through this and I lifted myself and I really got into a good place, then I thought, well, I can help other people. So that's when I trained as a life coach. Now, there's many life coaching courses out there, but the one that I did actually cover was over a 6-month period, and I had to get 50 hours training. And although I do some coaching work, I don't do it fully in the clinic. It's not my approach to things. My approach more is actually to teach you how to move on rather than coaching you. All right. So it was a good standing. The coaching experience, coaching qualification was a good starting point for me. So I started then to look at, well, how do I help other people? And from the coaching then, I decided to open a clinic. I decided I would do something other than my 9-to-5 job. And because by this stage, I was back into full employment, working for a public sector organisation at this stage. But I was training in different things to help me to be able to help others. And through the coaching, I met a person that I was helping. that then introduced me to traditional Chinese medicine. So I trained and I did a diploma, 2-year diploma in traditional Chinese medicine that brought in Western techniques. That's how the clinic came about, because I opened the clinic fully, initially to only work on physical pain. But when you have pain for a long time, it drags you down. So then I started to teach people about how to lift themselves, how to switch off that nearly expectation of the pain's going to come. Those background thoughts of the pain and how they can't do things and they're too tired, how to stop all of that. And at the same time, while I was getting into that and developing that side of things, a friend of mine asked me to teach her how to relax. So I says, like, if we get a group together, we'll do this. So I brought them in, did a bit of meditation, and realised, sure, they were going out of the clinic after an hour and just going back into their old patterns. So I started to teach them how to get into their head, how to stop that head chatter and how to change it. Okay? And through that, then over time, I developed the distraction process, and that's what I teach. So when someone comes to me with physical pain, I look to see what's actually causing it. We'll make common sense of the pain. We'll show, if I can reenact the fall or how they sit, whatever it is, they'll see why they have pain. If the pain's caused by stress, because stress or anxiety, all those things cause the stress or hormones to be released into the body, they cause inflammation. And when they cause inflammation, that causes tightness, causes pain. All right? So when it's caused by stress, I work the physical pain out of the body, but I also teach the person the techniques they need to actually bring their anxiety levels down or remove stress from their lives. Can't remove it completely, but to remove it to like an extent that it's manageable. Okay? So I take on the two-pronged approach. I'm slightly different in that way. Also in the background, just so you know as well, I personally do a lot of gardening. I do a lot of craft work. I do a lot of things to keep myself active, to keep my mind active. And I sort of use the phrase, what feeds your soul. So when I'm working with people, we'll go through stuff that helps them identify what actually feeds their soul. Because the more you do that, the more chance you have of filling your head with those kinds of thoughts rather than any negativity coming in. All right? So it's a bit of a work in progress. So when I'm working with people, I differ from your normal physio in that, because I actually will work to find out what's caused it. But when I'm taking on the anxiety, stress, depression, those side of things, I teach from my own experience. And people get it. When I teach by example. And people know that I get, and quite often people say to me, how do you know what's in my head? It's because I've been there. And at times still am. I'm normal, you know, at times I still get, you know, my head goes off and on, but I can control it, and that's the difference. So that gives you an introduction as to sort of a background as to my story, why I do what I do. And April next year, April 2022, I'll be doing this 10 years. And I have to say, I absolutely love the work that I do. In all my career, I started working full time at 24. And between the age of 24 till, 41, I had maybe 5, 6, 7 different jobs, moving from position to position. This, I have stayed for 10 years, and honestly, I can't see me ever leaving it. There's such a wealth of stuff out there. A lot of stuff that I'm eager to learn. As I said to you, I'm into the gardening. Part of what I want to do next is get into growing all my own herbs and edible flowers, and help introduce those into the clinic for people to, not even just for medicinal purposes, but for good, basic, cheap way of living, of eating, that gives you the nutrition you need, that feeds your body. So thank you for listening to me. If you're interested and would like to know any more about my story, or if you want to know anything else about how I could help you, just please lift the phone. My number's below. Just lift the phone and give me a call, and I'll have a chat with you. But thank you for your time. Bye.